I was there to
Yeah, no, there's not a huge
Hold on, Jen.
Where? Where?
He's wearing red shoes. Are you making do out here? It's been a while.
It's so far away. It's like, what? Bob left the top. No, you can't, but I just saying, right.
And he waived the right to a speedy trial. So they take precedence for all the other people.
Well, I thought he said. But that's just what I overheard the other guy saying.
Also, Karina might be good with she says we will see.
Oh, thanks.
All right, I'm going to go back staring intently at the courtroom door wall. I just want to ask you.
And it's not this guy in the gray suit either. We'll holler, okay? Because we can see it pretty good. I'm like, what is she talking about?
She's saying it's the other case
I know.
No, yeah, that's why theirs comes first.
Yes,
I got the door head to toe, so.
If he said not leaving, that must mean that he's leaving.
Okay. But if he's waiving the speed, okay. Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely.
I'm gonna be going to court for sure.
S. Saber. Her last name is Joanna Saber.
You want the spelling?
I got this one. Yeah. name of his potential new lawyer who he said no to was Evan Sugar, spelled like sugar. No, he didn't get it. Basically, Murray said that basically he got conflict of interest with this person who they didn't name, they just referred to as person one. Apparently there's a conflict of interest there, but Murray said that Murray's crafted a solution which the judge didn't seem too thrilled about. Where basically,
No one ever
he wants to cross, what's it called, interview someone in court. That's not called interviewing.
They had a discussion.
Yeah, but like for person one, he wants them to be immunized, or no, he wants Marks to be immunized, but he wants he says that for person one, he won't have any contact with them to like keep the information he has about them separate.
That he's going to put a wall, I believe he said,
That's
of
what
the
he said.
information.
Yes. So he's going to wall off the information, but he also said that he won't be like interviewing her during the trial, basically.
No, I suppose not.
So
we're taking every precaution.
yes, that was the Curcio. No, he's not taking it. Yes. He's wearing red shoes. He looked like, remember how he said he lost 100 pounds?
He doesn't look like it.
Yeah. Someone made the funny joke that I think he found it. Yeah. He's wearing bright red shoes, possibly leather. He had like an American Israel pin on, which I'm sure the Jewish community loves. Would love to have in the Philippines.
Oh God, is any comfort we can get?
Oh yeah, I will. At the start, he looked like a deer in headlights, but like before he got there, he started looking around. Yeah, no, I will.
You again, I'm here. You forgot Pastor Beach a couple days ago? How are you? I know.
I told him to visit with us. He asked me for just told me when this gets
I told my husband this week, I thought you were in the story. No. I said, oh, I should say, hey, I'm here. Forget about him. I'm here.
I'm trying to look at it. Hold on. I do a lot of good
Same here. You get a good story.
At least he used to be a drug dealer, so he's really got cash.
Uh-oh. He's going right for her. What's going on?
This is my son. I've had him for 30 years. Santos, 35? 36? Old enough where his classes are Botox done. It's good. I think he does lip injections too. I'm not sure. My mom and my sister, I showed them a photo after he was like, his head is so much more. Yes, hi, give me the tea. Tell me.
That's
When he comes out, I'm going to move out of the way, and everybody stays up there.
What's that?
If I do, I'll let you know.
What is
out of the way for the photographers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know this.
Just being courteous.
Except for the ones he's going to have to tackle.
I don't think I got your name. Andrew. You have a card, anything?
Yeah, when we're done.
That was such a shit show.
Those shots got Anna, but and now she's gone.
It's getting darker.
Built up and praised, and they wanted to leave after less than a year.
Didn't help that there was a kind of lie there about what her job description would
They made it sound like moving out of the way.
All right. Glad you're moving out of the way, so. Here he comes. Here he comes. He's in the right door.
Here he comes. Put that liar in the fryer! Put that liar in the fryer!
Congressman. That must have hurt him the most.
We're going to start the press conference now.
I think he did. Michael, can I get a picture with you?
Yeah, I mean,
Take a picture.
yeah, it's nothing to lose.
I know, I can tell. Good.
Can I ask you why you showed up here today?
Well, as a constituent, I wanted to see George Santos do the right thing and resign. I still want him to do the right thing and resign. And the fact that he hasn't nearly a year into his term is very disconcerting to me as a constituent and taxpayer of his.
Your name?
Joshua Sauberman, S as in Sam, A-U, B as in Bravo, E-R-M-A-N. And I also ran in the district in 2018. Thank you.
And not have somebody that's going to be a permanent enemy of yours for the rest of your life.
And how do you believe he killed your dog?
He scammed me. He scammed all my friends and everybody that donated to my dog's charity. $3,000 came up and he became argumentative. And he ran off with the money and ghosted me. And my dog died 3 months later. I couldn't go back and recollect those funds. Everybody that already donated what they could. And he knew that. He knew what he was doing.
You're still emotional about it?
I'm still emotional about it, yeah. It was 6 years ago, but you don't forget.
What do you think should happen to George Santos?
It'd be inevitable.
N as in Nancy, A, F as in Frank, T as in Tom, O, L.
Is anybody here who speaks Spanish?
What?
Speak Spanish? No. No, really? Nobody?
Nobody's Spanish over here? Can I talk to you?
It's everybody off. Everybody. It's just a mark to them. Some people don't line his pockets from.
Nice meeting you.
It's horrible. It's nice seeing you again. Can I see your signature?
Sachet. I Googled it.
Thanks, sir.
What's your dog's name?
Sapphire.
You have new dogs now, right? How are they
Three
doing?
dogs now. Yeah.
How are they doing?
They're doing great. They keep me busy. They try to keep me trim. I got a broken arm because of them. It's really good seeing you.
Everywhere, but can you spell your name for me? R-I-C-H.
Bring over those signs.
Yeah.
There's folks from along all the districts on Long Island here today because, yes, that's me. Yeah. Okay, we're going to get started now. Thank you all for coming. I'm Jody Cass-Finkel. I live in Great Neck.
Jody, can you spell your name, please?
Yeah, my name is spelling my name is JODYKASSFINKEL, and I am the founder and coordinator of Concerned Citizens of New York 03. Which is an ad hoc group of volunteers who have come together in a nonpartisan way with the sole purpose of getting George Santos ousted from our congressional seat. Woo! Yes, we are here with some other groups, and we also are here with some other folks from other districts because they're involved in some of the stuff that's keeping him in office. I especially want to thank Empire State Voices and Move On and some of the other groups who are also attending today, so thank you. In terms of the agenda, I'm going to make some opening remarks. We're going to hear from a handful of speakers, each about a minute or two, and then I'll make some closing remarks. The two things I'm going to cover are what happened in court today, and also I'm sure you all know about the resolution that was introduced yesterday by 5 New York GOP members of Congress to expel George Santos, which will be should be on the House floor either Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So we're going to talk about both of those things today. I had a bunch of different possibilities of things to say because we didn't know what was going to happen in court today. But I'm sure all of you know that he has not pled guilty, even though it looked like there was a lot of pressure on him to do so. And what I can say is that he is such an idiot. We knew he was a liar, we knew he was a criminal, but we didn't really think he was that stupid. He's looking at over 20 years in prison.
Lock him up.
So why didn't he plead? It's probably because he loves playing congressman, he likes being in the room where it's all happening, and most especially because he likes collecting his salary of $174,000. It's probably the largest salary and the most ongoing source of income that he's ever had in his life. So we were here today knowing that he might not plead, and one of the most important things that we wanted was to make sure that folks knew in the judiciary that we are looking for a speedy trial. We were looking for a date to start early for his trial. Congress, the Republicans in Congress have failed us. It's been 10 months since we have had representation, so we had been looking to the judiciary to help us. And we saw a very early indictment in May. We thought that was pretty fast. The superseding indictment obviously made things a little bit more complex. But the fact that the judge can't make room in her schedule until the fall possibly is really a huge disappointment for us. We were really hoping that this could be dealt with. We're told that this is a case that is very much based on paper, less about he said, she said, and it could be a pretty open and shut case, so we really thought this could be adjudicated much more quickly. So obviously we're very disappointed. We respect the judiciary, but we're hopeful that the judge can find room in her schedule to fit us in earlier. I'm going to talk now about the resolution to expel George Santos that was introduced yesterday, led by Congressman D'Esposito, along with 4 other members of Congress. D'Esposito is from New York 04, Congressman Lalota is from New York 01, and Congressman Lawler and Congressman Molinaro and Congressman Williams are the other three. They're not from Long Island. All five of them are viewed as being fairly vulnerable members of Congress because they are in districts that were blue and that voted strongly for Biden, and they are viewed as being vulnerable. So, you know, we have been reaching out to them since January when we formed, in recognizing that this is something that's about integrity. George Santos is all about lack of integrity, and we had hoped that we would have partners on both sides of the aisle that would work with us to actually bring him to justice, to show some accountability. In May, he was indicted on 13 counts, and the first motion to expel him was brought to the House floor, and all five of those members of Congress, along with the rest of the Republicans, voted to protect Santos instead of voting to expel him. They thought they could have it both ways. They could tell their press, the press and the constituents that they did everything they could to protect Santos, but in fact, that's not what their actions show. So now these same five Republicans have introduced this privilege motion. A privilege motion is something that you don't see very often in Congress, and it has an automatic 48-hour period of 48 hours of when Congress is in session. They're not coming back to be in session until Wednesday, so it'll either have to be Wednesday or Thursday that this vote will take place. It's on HRes 773. If you read their press conference and if you read the actual resolution, and if you listen to what they're saying, these members of Congress, it sounds like they are very serious. It sounds like they are fed up. But are they? Or is this more lip service? That's the main question here. When Representative D'Esposito was on the House floor yesterday, he said that Santos is not fit to serve his constituents. He's right. He's never been fit to be a congressman. And most of the world knew that, even before he was seated in Congress. But D'Esposito and his fellow members of the House, particularly these five vulnerable freshmen, have had the power to push Santos out all along. And now that they have introduced their own expulsion resolution, it is our hope that that is what they will do. But in order to do it, there are three things that they need to do. Number one, they need to act as a bloc and let the GOP leadership know just how important this is and that they are going to be acting as a bloc.
Yes.
They need to ask the GOP leadership to whip the votes to support the resolution to expel George Santos, because we need to get 77 Republicans to vote to expel him. The reason why is because an expulsion resolution requires a 2/3 vote. And with 433 members in the House, 2 vacancies, and the assumption is that the Democrats are going to vote in favor of expulsion because they voted in favor in May. The numbers add up. We need 289. That's our magic number. We therefore need 77 Republicans. And if the leadership of the GOP, number 3, if the leadership of the GOP won't whip the votes, then these members of Congress, these 5 members of Congress, need to let the leadership know that they will stop voting in lockstep with the GOP until Santos is gone. They have 5 votes. The Republicans in Congress have a margin of 4. They have always had this power. They can let the leadership know that it is time to actually get George Santos out and bring some integrity back to Congress. Woo. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn this over to a few other speakers. Emily Raphael from Plainview. She is a member of the steering committee of New York Concerned Citizens of New York 03. Emily? Sure. Woo. Thank you. And everyone's going to talk about a minute or two. I know it looks like a lot, but...
Okay, yeah. I talk fast and I'm pretty terse.
Emily, could you spell your name?
Sure, it's E-M-I-L-Y-R-A, P as in Peter, H-A-E-L. You know, the steering committee has been working together since January, shortly after this came out. And there have been a million memes and cartoons and jokes since December about George Santos. And I've even forwarded, I've actually made some of them, sent them around. You have, you know, hashtag Scamtos, pictures of him at Iwo Jima or landing on the moon. And most recently, pictures of him as Speaker of the House, haha. And I've seen the late night talk show hosts joke about him in their monologues. and I've occasionally laughed if they're particularly good jokes. But I'd really like to stress that turning his lying and his, indecent lack of integrity, his criminality, into a punchline really trivializes the wrong being done to the people in his district. Exactly. I'm one of them. I'm from Plainview. It's not actually funny to have Santos pretending to represent us. Republican leadership is essentially playing a game of keep away with that congressional seat, pretending to let the process work out. It got punted to the Ethics Committee how many months ago? I'm sure Jody could tell you, who passed it along by not making a decision by August when they went into recess. And there was a resolution presented yesterday, but Speaker Johnson already said in an interview with, I believe, Sean Hannity, he said the silent part aloud by mentioning his slim majority. That's the calculus, is holding on to that majority, and it was said aloud. So much for institutional standards. I'm hoping that there are some Republicans who will do the right thing, but again, it's a running gag for everyone else. I'm a citizen in District 3, and I'm not laughing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily. We're going to hear from a constituent in New York 04. We invited him because we wanted Congressman D'Esposito to know that his constituents are watching, and they're paying a lot of attention, and they cannot be duped by lip service. So with that, Paul Bua from Baldwin, New York 04.
Woo.
Good morning.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Bua, B-U-A, and I'm here from New York CD4 in support of concerned citizens of CD3 to demand justice, integrity in their elected leadership. Today is yet another episode in this malignant clown show of MAGA extremism holding the country hostage since November 2022. Leadership matters. Who represents us in Washington, D.C. matters. We demand accountability from the courts, the media, and our political leaders against corrupt, fraudulent grifters who clearly create a public service career based on lies, sycophancy, and extremist views. George Santos is just one symptom of the cancer that has enveloped our civic life, and we are here to call it out on every level.
Yes.
It is specious to think of Santos as a singular event. George Santos is a product of the cabal that has incubated him for years in local politics. He was vetted and ran twice with the blessing of his local party. He was embraced by the very moderate cabal that now sees him as a stain on the Congress. The sad reality is that the grandstanding, the political circus we are watching is a sideshow to the five-alarm fire that now presents itself in Washington, D.C. Anthony D'Esposito was an ex-New York City cop who claims as congressman to protect and serve his constituency. But his voting record, his statements, his avoiding of having serious town hall meetings with his constituents have been an exercise in deflect and deceive. Nassau citizens expect their cops to be honest as public servants. We certainly expect our ex-cops turned elected officials to be honest as well. This current crop has been anything but honest. They understand their power relies on every vote in the Congress and have done everything to coddle Santos and extend his ability to promote their MAGA complicit agenda. Santos is a colleague one day, appears in every photo op with D'Esposito and his leadership, then a pariah the next day while they lie about committing to moderate leadership. It is high time the courts, the press, and the public understands this charade. And concerned citizens here will work tirelessly to remove these representatives who are anything but profiles in courage. Leadership matters. Their decisions impact the lives of Nassau residents, and the policies they are pursuing will negatively impact their constituents. But to them, the malignant clown show is more important. We are here today to call it out and change it. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you very much, Paul.
Great.
Okay, we're going to now hear from someone who's a constituent in New York 02. That's Congressman Garbarino's district. Also from Long Island. Congressman Garbarino is very, very important. He is not a freshman and he's not viewed as vulnerable, but he is on the Ethics Committee where the George Santos mess has been sent to languish or to die, and it's been sitting there since February. So we're going to hear from Lisa Savimli from East Patchogue. Lisa?
Thank you. I live in Andrew Garbarino's district. He has not been representing us, and he's on the Ethics Committee. He has been slow walking the votes or the investigation into Santos. So this message is directly to you, Mr. Coward Garbarino. It's time for you to bring it to a vote and start investigating Santos and remove him from Congress, because this is a shame. All over the world, we look like the chaos caucus of United States. Woo!
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to hear from Dylan Thomas Wheeler from the Empire State Voices, an organization who's helped us out a lot on the logistics in particular. Dylan, and also a constituent of New York 01.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dylan Wheeler, DYLANWHEELER. First off, I'd like to thank concerned citizens of New York 3 as well as Move On for inviting me to join them here today. My name is Dylan Wheeler, and I'm a resident of Huntington in New York 1, and I am the local organizing director for Empire State Voices. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to holding our members of the New York delegation accountable on the economic issues that impact our lives. We're currently struggling with one of the worst affordability crises in the nation's history. Long Islanders of all backgrounds are dealing with stagnant wages, the soaring cost of living, and leaders in Congress who refuse to fight for our best interests. Rather than having a representative in Washington working to lower costs and make life more affordable, residents in New York's 3rd District have had to deal with a federally indicted liar who's spending all his time trying to dodge legal accountability for his own actions. It's beyond disappointing that George Santos' colleagues have allowed him to remain in Congress for this long. Even Congressman Anthony D'Esposito, who represents the neighboring community on the South Shore in New York 4 and should understand the urgency of this situation, has failed to take any meaningful action for almost an entire year. His fellow Long Islanders have protected and pleaded, but Anthony D'Esposito has stood by and done nothing. Back in June, Empire State Voices, along with other partner groups, wrote a letter to Congressman D'Esposito and the rest of the New York House Republicans, urging them to vote for Congressman Santos' expulsion, and instead shielded him from accountability by referring the expulsion measure to the House Ethics Committee and delaying the vote. Long Islanders deserve better. We deserve representatives who tell the truth, who fight for our best interests, and who work to make life better for our families and communities. I wanted to thank everyone for coming out here today, and we hope that the New York delegation will do the right thing and vote to expel George Santos.
Woo!
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. We're going to hear from actually David Rifkin, who is a resident of New York 03 and also a Move On member, and then we're going to hear from Rich Ostoff and then Susan Naftol. So David, you're next.
Thank you, good morning, and thank you, concerned citizens of 03, New York's 3rd Congressional District, for bringing us together at this pivotal time and at this auspicious location for this most critical goal, to take this small, obvious step to restore integrity and legitimacy to the political discourse in our district, our state, and to remove this blemish on our national character. We have many groups here with a variety of political, social, economic perspectives, but we here today represent all points on the political spectrum. We're here because on this we agree.
Yes.
Our congressman is George Santos. Not just a congressman from New York 03, or even a congressman from New York. George Santos stands before the world as the Honorable George Santos, representative of the Congress of the United States of America.
Shame.
George Santos represents you no matter what party you align with or district you live in within the United States. The Honorable George Santos represents the integrity of all members of Congress, all of whom take the same oath and affirm a level of personal integrity. That oath is not being honored here, and on this we agree. The shame of New York 03 falls on the nation, but the responsibility falls on this district. So to remedy this, we meet here today as citizens with a common goal. We come from many places, we represent many different perspectives. We are not all in the same boat. But with Santos, we're swimming in the same sewer. We're here because we want to flush Santos, not the district.
Yes. Right.
We're here because on this, we agree.
We're united, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to hear from Rich Ostoff. Many of you know Rich already. He is not in the district, but he was a victim of Santos. His service, he's a veteran, and his service dog was killed because of Santos. So, Rich.
Thank you, Jody. And thank you to NY03 for allowing me the time to speak today. George scammed my service dog out of thousands of dollars donated to save her life. Sapphire died weeks later. I'm a disabled United States veteran. I took an oath of enlistment. George Santos took a similar oath of office. I may no longer be in uniform, but my oath is a lifetime oath. George's oath expired before he even raised his hand. I'm continuing my pledge to defend our Constitution from all enemies, foreign or domestic, and George Santos is definitely a domestic enemy. I will fight him and his thoughts and ways until he's brought to justice and is serving time. I wonder who the most hated man is in Long Island. Is it Rex Heuermann or is it George Santos? George Santos ran a scam animal charity. He scammed Amish dog breeders out of thousands of dollars worth of puppies. He ran a child's cancer scam. He ran an ATM skimming scam. George Santos hates animals. George Santos hates veterans. George Santos hates children, and George Santos hates you. George, you haven't done anything for your constituents in NY03. You haven't done anything besides defend your BS. You've wasted taxpayers' funds every second you've occupied a congressional seat. Your staff deserves better. The people of NY03 deserve better. And for the love of God, step down immediately before you suffer the embarrassment of going down in history books for being kicked out of Congress. You're already embarrassing yourself every day by throwing public temper tantrums and using a baby as a human shield from reporters. Now you're accused of rerunning owners' credit cards to line your own pockets. It sounds a little familiar to me. I seem to remember you running a GoFundMe campaign for a sick dog and a disabled veteran a few years ago to line your own pockets. Today, you're scamming your constituents and every American taxpayer to line your own pockets every time you accept a congressional paycheck. Your campaign manager just pled guilty. You should too. Plead guilty and resign. End the charade. End this scam. Stop putting the people of NY03 through this nightmare. If you aren't man enough to do what we all know is the right thing to do, maybe Speaker Mike Johnson will step up to the plate and do what Kevin McCarthy lacked the spine to do. Mike Johnson, I served 5 years of my U.S. Navy career in Louisiana. Fine state, great food, and some of the most honest, down-to-earth, and kind-hearted people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. Please, make the people of Louisiana and the U.S. proud, and eject this lying, thieving, scamming imposter from our United States House of Representatives. Hasn't he done enough harm already? As George himself said yesterday, everything has an end in this life. Well, let's end his time in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Rich travels a long way to get here every time, so thank you, Rich. Now we're going to hear from Susan Naftol. Susan is famous because she's the one who almost got kicked out of the courtroom today. She's also a member of the steering committee of Concerned Citizens of New York 03, and she lives in Plainview. So, Susan?
Hi, Susan Naftol, S-U-S-A-N, N-A-F as in Frank, T as in Tom, O-L. Okay. As a resident of New York 03, I'm disgusted by Santos' lack of representation I have in Congress. There are so many issues, from women's health to the Speaker of the House, that normally would have me contacting my representative, but I have no representative. Santos doesn't have town halls for residents. We even went down to D.C. to meet with him. I emailed him 2 weeks in advance to let him know that I would like a meeting, never got an answer. We went to his office, he wouldn't meet with us. There are so many events that are happening in our country right now and around the world that my representative should be trusted to know about and act upon, and yet we are left with a liar instead of a trustworthy congressman. Other members of Congress don't trust or want to work with him, and yet he still sits in office, taking the place of a true representative. I understand there is a slim majority for Republicans in the House, but is that enough of a reason for them to protect him? The new Speaker, Mike Johnson, has indicated that he doesn't support expelling Santos. His quote, we have to allow due process to play itself out. I ask why. Has Santos not made it abundantly clear that he is a liar and a fraud? Did he not lie about everything from his education to his employment history, to his mother's death in 9/11, to his being Jewish and his family being Holocaust survivors? If this liar is allowed to stay in office, what does that say about our hallowed institutions? What does it say to others who would lie their way into office? Most importantly, what does it tell us, the residents of New York 03? I'll tell you what it tells me. It tells me I don't matter. It tells me that New York 03 doesn't matter. Is that really what our government thinks? Shame on Santos, but also shame on those who would give him cover. Shame on the Long Island representatives that have given lip service on this but have done nothing to expel until now, when they think giving him cover might affect their re-election prospects. Shame on them, shame on him, shame on all who have given the scam artists cover on the backs of tax-paying New York 03 residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I'm just going to say a couple of concluding remarks, and then we've been asked, everybody, by some of the press to do the chant again and hold signs up after my last remark. So we'll do that for if anyone who wants more video of that. So in conclusion, it's very clear that George Santos likes to play at congressman. He's annoying. He's a lying deadbeat. He loves to hobnob with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and other crazies in Congress. He's never been our congressman. He's always been a swindler, someone we can't trust, somebody we can't go to for help with federal agency issues. And not only do we not know him, right? We voted for an imposter, but he doesn't know us. He doesn't spend time in the district. He doesn't understand our values. He doesn't understand our priorities. And he has completely deprived us of a voice in Washington on the most consequential policy, program, and budget issues.
Exactly.
We're pleased that these 5 members of Congress have introduced the resolution to expel Santos. But what happens between now, today, and Wednesday or Thursday when this gets brought to the floor is crucial. Will these 5 members act like a bloc, and as a bloc? Will they persuade GOP leadership to whip the votes? That's the question we need you all to be asking. Will you ask your leadership to whip the votes for this expulsion? Otherwise, it's lip service. We need the press to help us on this.
No more lip service.
We will not know until Wednesday or Thursday if, in fact, it is more lip service. And hopefully, they'll have found their spine and some integrity and be serious, finally, about getting rid of Santos from Congress. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Who was? Oh, you're talking about Santos? Santos isn't the one we were accusing of lip service. It was the rest of the. But you know, look, he's full of hot air, and you know, as I said earlier, he's unbelievably annoying. Isn't he? I know most of you can't stand covering him anymore, right?
The kisses is just arrogance.
Yeah.
And also he thinks it's a joke.
Right.
We're a joke to him.
Right. I also just want to say that, you know, I didn't know most of the people here before January. This is an organic group who came together out of our shared disgust with George Santos. We're all volunteers, and we've been at this for 10 months. We'd like to move on to other things. We'd like him to be gone. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows we're all volunteers, and it's it's been very organic, the whole process, and us forming.
Is the bloc prepared? We all want to see him expelled. Is the bloc prepared to answer the charge about precedents? I don't think a congressman, I might be wrong, has been expelled upon an indictment rather than conviction. But my point is, if the bloc is prepared with an answer for that, we might ask him.
I have an answer for that. The Constitution calls for members of Congress to represent the will of the people. We have never had an imposter like George Santos run with premeditated lies that were specifically focused on every single segment of our district. And so he has never represented the will of the people. Exactly. And so this is a first. So it's a brand new precedent. And it's time, and just, you know, I wasn't going to talk about this too much today, but it's time to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yes.
There's an act there was a bill that was introduced in January by Congressman Richie Torres and Congressman Dan Goldman. It's called the Santos Act. Woo. Stop another non-truthful office holder. I think that's what it is. And that is a bill that will help make sure that this doesn't happen again.
This should never have happened in the first place, but we also want to ensure that it never happens again. No other district anywhere in the country should deal with what we are dealing with right now. It's unacceptable.
Okay, so we're gonna. Everybody have signs? Mitch, you got me a sign? Yeah. You want it?
Yeah.
Where do you want? So you want us all right here, like behind them?
No, just there's some people hanging over, just as everyone's.
Okay, here we go.
Well, get together or
So we're going to shout. Susan, you're going to lead us in these chant. You have a couple of chants?
Even though again, my mind is fried. But okay.
Hey, hey,
ho, ho! Santos has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Santos has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Santos has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Santos has got to go. Hey, hey.
put that liar in the fryer.
Put that liar in the fryer. Put that liar in the fryer.
Who do we want? Santos out.
When do we want it?
Now. What do we want? Santos out. When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
Santos out.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Santos out.
When do we want it?
Now.
Woo!
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
What's your reaction to him blowing kisses in your direction?
Susan, let's hear
It's just arrogance. That man is the picture of arrogance. The fact that it just shows us, it shows me personally, that he doesn't take any of this seriously. It's all a joke to him. Everything about this is a joke. You know what? I'm a New York 03 resident. I'm not a joke. I'm a taxpayer. I'm not a joke. I have issues. I'm not a joke. The fact that he would do that is the utmost of arrogance. He doesn't care. It just shows that he doesn't care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being here and covering us. We appreciate it. J-O-D-I.
Liz Holmes, Paris.
Cass, K-A-S-S.
Same thing.
K-A-S-S, Cass.
Fictitious story.
How old are you? I'm 62.
And what kind of
Like, is there a name?
Is there what? Yeah, Concerned Citizens of New York 03. In fact, if you have a card on me, I'll put you on our distribution list. What do you think? Yeah. But tell me as to come if we at the next meeting, the next event. You mean Dylan? Dylan. He's probably taking it apart, I would guess.
I'm from the Great Neck News.
Okay.
Take the spelling
Hey,
of your
hey,
name
ho,
one more
ho.
time. I know you spelled it like
Oh, boy.
It's N as in Nancy. It's a weird name. A, F as in Frank, T as in Tom.
Anybody want to touch this?
If it was Smith, it would be
I'm going to touch something.
That's all.